Hi, in this video I will share with you some great tips and tricks as I show you my workflow in the awesome Intellij IDEA IDE coming up. Hey, thanks for being here. My name is Nilton from craftofprogramming.com. I am a senior Java developer based in New York City. This channel is all about helping you master the craft of software development. Please subscribe, like, hit that notification bell, leave a comment below, and share this video. Let's get started. Okay, so in this video I will let's create a toy application, like say a pets application that has a simple class hierarchy, where I'm going to show you my workflow and awesome tips and tricks on with Intellij IDEA. So the first thing I need to show you is I keep showing this over and over again, is this. So this is one of the key takeaways of this video, right? So this is the Intellij IDEA default key map. There is one for Windows and Linux as well as Mac. So please learn these keyboard shortcuts. I mean, it's highlighted, there is something called productivity boosters, which is highlighted in gray. Make sure you learn these, memorize that, make an effort so that, because these will really boost your productivity. I mean, if there is like the key takeaway of this short Intellij tips and tricks video is really that you should know by heart these keyboard shortcuts. There are plugins that help you do that. I'll make a video if there is interest about that. So to access this keyboard shortcut, go to Help, Key Map Reference. So another thing I have here is the Presentation Assistant plugin. So I don't know if you guys want me to, as I speak, I use Windows, but some of you, or quite a bit of you, probably use a Mac, just to make the this demo like more fluid. I don't want to be constantly saying, type Control-Shift-A for Windows, or Shift Command-A for Mac. As I type a keyboard shortcut, you will see at the bottom of the screen what the keyboard shortcut is for your operating system. Okay, let's start coding. The first thing I do before I start coding is I enter what's called a Zen mode. So there is here Enter Zen mode. So the Enter Zen mode is a new mode that got introduced with Intellij IDEA 2020.1, and basically it combines the distraction-free mode with the full screen mode. So let me show you. If you come to View and you go to Appearance, and you see there is the Enter Distraction-Free mode, Presentation mode, Full Screen, and Zen mode. So Presentation mode just basically scales it up, really, the IDE. This is very useful if you want to, share something with other people, in a big screen or whatever. So exit Presentation mode. So the other mode is Distraction-Free mode. So distraction-free mode, as you see, removes all of the tool window bars and status bar, but you still have the menu bar. And the Zen mode basically is like the distraction-free mode without the menu bar. So it combines the full screen and the distraction-free mode. So that's the first thing I do. So now let's create our animal interface. Let's create an animal interface and let's add some behavior to it. So let's say that an animal has an age and it's got a name, and let's say that an animal communicates and it moves. So that's our interface. Okay, so now we have an animal interface, and obviously we need to implement it, right? So the easiest way to do that is just, click on the animal interface and implement the interface. So let's, for example, create a, dog class. in the same default package. Okay, so IntelliJ is asking us, because it's not an abstract class, whether we want to implement all of these methods, and let's say yes. So now another thing that I like to do is I usually like to split the screen so that as I code I see the the interface of the base classes and the subclasses and all of the related classes. So I just basically just do split. You can do split and move down. Let's do split and move right. Okay, so now we have our dog class and we have our animal class. So let's add some behaviors here. So as you see, IntelliJ has some really nice code completion for access modifier. So you just have to type PRF and it defaults to a private final. So you can just type that and then you put the age, and same thing, PRF for the name. Now obviously we need to implement that, so let's just do Alt Enter constructor. Now let's select those two fields and bang, we have our constructor. Now we have this get age and get name. Let's return the age and let's return the name. Okay. So another nice template for code completion is SO. So there are quite a few variants here. So you can print a formatted string to system out or just your plain system out, or you can print parameters that are passed onto the method. So let's print a just a simple string. I don't know, dog communicates by saying woof, and also here a dog walking. So now let's go back to our animal class and implement another animal. For example, let's say we have a cat, and here perhaps let's again split and move right again. Okay. So let's just make a little bit of space here. So now see what's happening, right? We don't want to be duplicating this behavior, right? So what we really want to do is when I go to the dog class and we want to push these fields up onto the animal interface. But before we do that, let's convert this onto a class. Notice that both the cat and the dog, now instead of implementing an interface, they are extending a class. Alright, so let's go back to our dog and let's get these two fields. Let's do in IntelliJ what's called refactor this. Okay, and let's extract or pull members up. Okay, and let's use the animal as our target for those two fields. Okay, so we want the age and we want the name, and let's refactor that. Cool, look at that. So not only IntelliJ moved those two fields from the subclass dog to the superclass animal, but also it created a constructor to initialize that class, and the class dog that extends that has that constructor. Isn't that neat? So obviously we want the age to return the age. We don't want this to be an abstract method. It's in a method body, and this obviously return the age, and this one too add a method body, and let's the name. All right, so let's go back to our dog class. We don't want to be overriding these two methods. Okay, cool. Now let's go to cat, and same thing, we do not want to be implementing these methods. Alright, so cat communicates by saying meow and cat walk. Cool. Now obviously we have to implement the constructor to match super. Alright, so now we have our cat, our dog, and our abstract animal class. So perhaps we want to create another animal. So let's go to our animal here and let's implement, I don't know, let's say we have a parrot, and a parrot is, so perhaps let's split and move down the parrot. For some reason when I do that I lose the keyboard focus, so unfortunately I have to grab the mouse. So a parrot communicates by saying hello world, and it moves by flying. Okie dokie. So now we have these 3 animals. So now notice that number of classes are starting to increase, and it's time to start talking about navigation. So let's see one thing. You don't want to be, like clicking on, the editors that you have here. So one big tip I want to share with you in Intellij is be lazy. So Intellij is extremely powerful. Let the IDE do most of the work for you. And one of the things you don't want to be using is the mouse. So try not to use the mouse ever, or just minimize it to the full extent possible. So how do we navigate through all these 4 editors that we have here? So there are a few ways. So one way is using the navigation bar. So you can go one level up, and notice that I have the from the method I went to the class, and now I am on the package level, and I can see my classes here, right? So I can go to the animal, or I can go back, and I can go to the cat, right? Another way is obviously through the switcher. Okay, so I can go to dog, I can go to parrot, or I can go to animal. Okay, another way is calling the recent locations. Okay, so recent locations visits each of the locations across the different editors, okay, in the reverse chronological order that you have accessed them. Okay, so I can go to animal, cat, or whatever, right? So also, since I'm talking about navigation, you can obviously go to all of the tool windows. So notice that when I click Control Tab in Windows, I see here the project window, favorites, so I can go to each of those windows. But you usually wouldn't use the switcher. You should really know what is the shortcut to go there. So what you do is you do Alt 1 and you go to Project, Alt 2 in Windows, or Command 2 in Mac, to go to the bookmarks and so on. Okay, and for example, you can go to the Gradle window. Okay, so notice that so that's kind of you navigate through all of the editors. All right, there is an even better way of doing that, especially when you have lots of editors and lots of classes to manage, which is using bookmarks. So to do a bookmark, to set a bookmark, you do Control F11 in Windows, and you can just assign a bookmark mnemonic, right? So I put a bookmark here for cat. Let's go to the animal, and let's set another bookmark there. And you see what bookmarks you have set by clicking Shift F11 or Command F3 on Mac. Okay, see there. Then obviously let's set a bookmarks for all of our classes. Control F11, 3, and let's do the same thing for the dog class. Okay. So again, you consult them by typing Shift F3 or Command F3, and you see. And obviously, from there you can go. But the way you really use them is not by seeing what's set. You use them by using the numbers. It's just to Control 1, right? 2 to the animal, 3 to the parrot, and 4 to the dog. So on the subject of sort of navigation, notice that when you type Control F12 or Command F12, then you have the hierarchy of the of the current type. If you want to see the inherited members, then you type it again, and now you see what you inherit from the animal class and from the object class. Okay, you can see here object, object, and animal. All right, so another thing that you need to be aware is that all windows, or in Intellij, are typable, so you can just start typing. So I have this window here, and let's say I just want to look at the age. I just type age, and boom, look at that, it matched the method getAge and age, and obviously I can just go there. And this is pervasive in all windows in Intellij. For example, I go to the project, same thing. I can just start typing parrot, and boom, I'm already at the parrot class, enter, and I'm there. And you can do this everywhere, even in the on the settings window, same thing. I can just start typing anything, templates, and I am inside the live templates or whatever matches. So always type, don't use the mouse to search for things, okay? So on the topic of navigation, so inside, so you can navigate to, you know, backwards or forwards to all the points that you were across the entire, you know, editor space, and you use Control-Alt-Left, right, on Windows, or Command, you know, left bracket, or Command right bracket, see? And it's basically going backwards to all the previous points where you were editing, okay, across all the editors, and forward. So inside the file or editor, so let's go to the animal. I kind of forgot what's the shortcut for animal is. Control-2. So here you can just iterate through the methods by, you know, doing Alt down or Control down in Mac, okay? Down and up, right? So again, no need to use the mouse. So let's go to the animal class, and let's generate the equals and hash code. All right. So let's just take the default. Okay, so we have our equals and our hash code. So let's go to our cat and let's generate the toString method. Select the string, select the two fields, and bang. And obviously let's go to our dog class and parrot. Same thing, select these two fields and bang, generated. And let's go to our parrot. And let's generate it agent. Okay, cool. Okay, so now let's create our pets class. Before that, let me just unsplit this. And let's create it. So again, let's go to navigation bar. Let's select the package. And in here, let's create the pets class. Pets. So the pets class is where we're going to have the main method and the you know, the set of pets, and we're just going to do some, you know, basic queries. So let's create the main method. So to create the main method, again, this is part of the code completion of IntelliJ or live template. So you can just do PSVM, which stands for public static void main, or just type main. And now you have the main class. So what we're going to do here is we're going to just instantiate the pets, and let's assign it to, yeah, pets, that's fine. And then we're going to run a bunch of queries. Let's add a private final field, which is our set of animals, which we're going to call pets. And let's provide a constructor for it. All right. So now obviously here we have to provide a pets set. Okay. So let's do a set of. Okay. So let's provide it. So let's say I'm gonna have a dog. And I'm gonna have a bunch of them here. So let's provide another dog called Scoob, and let's create a cat. The cat is Raja, and Simba, another cat. Whatever, let's add another cat called 4, 5, Lucifer, and let's create a parrot, age 6. And his name is Charlie. Okay. Look at that. Cool. So I think it's time now to introduce the type of completions that IntelliJ supports. You have basic completion, smart completion, and you have also complete statement. So let's cover the three in turn. So let's start with basic code completion. Let's say I have a set of animal here. Let's call it full. And look what happens. I do new and I just do H, and now I'm trying to do code completion, right? See what happens. I type H, and this is control space in Windows, or control space in Mac as well. So I have all of these options. Some of them don't even, you know, make sense, right? So I can't really assign this to a set. Whereas if you do code completion, smart code completion, look what happens. You have hash set and linked hash set there, which are two collection implementations of a set that implement the set interface. Okay, so that's the difference between one of the differences between basic and smart code completion. I mean, just use smart code completion. There is really pretty much no reason to use only basic code completion. For sentence completion, for example, let's say I'm doing if I'll whatever true, and look what happens. If I just complete the statement, it puts the spaces not around between the if and the parentheses and between the end of parentheses, and it puts the curly braces. And not only that, I don't know if you noticed, but I actually put the cursor where I'm supposed to type. So let me show you that again. If true, complete statement, and look at that. Now I can just continue typing, blah blah blah. It's that neat. One other thing that I want you to be aware of is that the the live templates for printing stuff out is aware of your context. So I'm in a method that has a parameter which is a string array on main, and if I do if I type say for example print a value to system out, look what happens. It's aware that there is a variable called path and it printed. If instead I want to print a parameter, then I select SOUTP, right? And instead it picked up the parameter. So this is really, really powerful and useful stuff that you need to be aware of. Now I'm going to talk about something which is really, really neat, which is something called post-suffix completion. So now I'm going to introduce a really powerful type of completion, which is called post-suffix completion. If you're interested, I'm going to do a complete video just to cover post-suffix completion, because it's a really powerful way of coding. So basically, let me show you a few examples to kind of give you a taste of it. So let's say I have here a method foo, takes a boolean, b, whatever. So now let's say I want to test this boolean, right? So traditional way of doing is you do if, right? And now I have to put the b there, right? I mean, this is really too much typing for me. So what if instead I told that you could just click on the type the parameter and do dot and just type if, and look what happens, right? It encapsulates the boolean, which is the condition of the if, right? And obviously this is not just limited to so you're not limited just on conditional statements. You can use loops as well, right? For example, be while, look at that. I mean, this is so powerful. There's so many different options, right? Look at that, another one where you can just do a system out with an expression, right? Isn't that neat? So another very useful one that I use often is to test for nullity. For example, O, and I can say if the object is not null, and n, boom, look at that. Or you can just be more explicit and type not null, boom, look at that. Now the cool one is, let's say I have here an array, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, an int array, right? I can grab the value, and if I want to iterate it, I just do 4. Look at that, boom. I mean, obviously you can do equivalent way to do the same thing is just do v.iter. So this is a really powerful way of coding, and I strongly recommend you to be familiar with it. Like I said, if you're interested, I can make a video on that. All right, I use it all the time. Just before we continue coding, I just need to show something which is really important, like the search. Just type twice on shift, and it enables you to search everywhere. I mean, I really mean everywhere. For example, type age, it matches the symbols, but it also matches actions, right? That match the word age. And you can click more and you have more usages, right? This is really useful if you're trying to find something you're not really sure, maybe it's the file name or a symbol name or whatever, then you can just type that. I tend to prefer, if I know what I'm searching, to kind of narrow down, because then the search space is smaller and the search hopefully is faster. For example, if I want to search for a type, then I just do that, and then, you know, I just say animal, right? I'll not open a type by doing tap animal, right? If I want to search for a file, then I just do that. Right? If I want to search for a symbol, then I just do that. Is that neat? And now here, for example, I can search for a symbol. Symbol is basically a field or a method in Java. Okay, cool. So now let's continue the implementation here. Let's get rid of this. So what I really want to do is I want to have a method here that returns me the animal that matches some get pets using some pet selector. And let's call selector, okay? And obviously when I do that, Intellij is already marking that as red, so let's introduce that. I want it to be an interface. So let's take the default package for a pet selector, and pet selector is going to be a predicate for an animal. Okay, cool. Let's go back to where we were, and in here I want to, now that we have a predicate, then we should be able to use it. Okay, let's get a stream, and let's filter the stream using the selector, and let's collect onto a set, collectors to set. Okay, good. Now let's implement the some selectors. So I am not going to type private static. Way too much typing for me. Okay, I'm not going to do that. So let's create a template to do that for us. All right. So let's go to the settings, and in here let's go to editor. Let's go to live templates, and let's select a template. Maybe we can use something here, maybe not. Anyway, let's just create one. Let's create a live template, and let's call it insert, or if you want to be super specific, we can say insert static inner class. Cool. So insert a static inner class. Okay, template text is going to be public static class, and here we need to use a name variable, and then we want to place the cursor here, and oops, and let's see if we have formatting here. We don't, sorry. Okay, and another thing is let's use the context in Java, and that's a declaration. All right, apply. Okay, so now we should be able to insert a static inner class. Look at that, bang. Ooh, there is a bug here. Let's go back there. Let's undo that. I think we made a boo-boo. Yeah, of course we did. We have to terminate that. Okie dokie. Boom. Now insert static inner class. Good. So now this is a let's start with a parrot selector, and this implements the pet selector. Okay, another thing I want to tell you, which I almost forgot to say, use just the you know, abbreviations to find types, right? So you don't need to say type pet selector, right? You can just do PS and boom, look at that, you already matched that, right? Just basically use the first letter in the camel case. So now obviously we have to implement that. And let's just implement the test method. That's more than enough. And obviously here what we're going to do is we're going to do if the animal instance of a cat, oh sorry, parrot. Okay. And obviously let's implement the others. What is insert static inner class? Let's do a dog selector. Implement a pet selector PS only, and that's IntelliJ to implement the method, and we just want to test. And same thing, right? Animal instance of dog, and we want to do the same thing for insert static inner class for the cat. Cat selector implements pet selector. Enter, and let's implement the method. We just want to test, and animal instance of cat. Cool. Now we have our 3 selectors here, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna go to open the structure. I don't need to see the inherited members. Let's go to our get pets using method, and we have all the work there. Look at that, is that neat? So now here, let's run some queries. Okay, so cool. Now let's just put some new line characters here. Oh, let me show you something really cool. Oh, almost forgot. So something really cool. Let me show you here. Column selection mode. So if you don't remember shortcut, that's fine. Just go action, column selection mode. Boom. Now I'm inside column selection mode. Look at that. Ding, 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 ding. Let's put a new line character. Is that neat? And now let's go back and exit column selection mode. Okay, cool. Now let's run our main. And let's go to our run window and maximize. And look at that. We have our pets, parrots, dogs, and cats. Alright, I think this ends my video on tips and tricks with the best Java in IDE in the planet. So if you want me to do part 2 of these tips and tricks IntelliJ video, then let me know in the comments. Take care. Ciao.